Welcome to another edition of the John Huddle podcast brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. I am John Schmelk, joined today by longtime NFL quarterback, Super Bowl champion, Brian Hoyer. Brian, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Hey, John. Thanks for having me. I'm good. I'm excited to talk about Jaxson Dart. I self-admittedly had him as one of the higher-rated quarterbacks coming out. I know a few people weren't as high on him, but the more I watched him on film, I thought he was a first-round pick. And when I saw the Giants trade up for him, I thought it made a lot of sense. Because to me, and I'm not comparing him to this guy, but Brian Daboll had experience with a young Josh Allen in Buffalo, and I think that's when Josh really took off and became the quarterback we see today. And I think Daboll saw a little bit of that in Jaxson Dart. And you can kind of see the comparisons. You know, Jaxson comes in and provides a spark to that Giants team. And it's not all the passing, it's the running. And I think he's hanging around Cam Scatterby a little too much. He's, like leading with his head. And my son, of course, my son's an eighth grade football player, and he loves Jaxson Dart because he has what he calls aura, whatever that means. Nothing that I ever had when I was playing. But my son's trying to run guys over now. And I'm like, where are you learning this from? And he's like, guys like Josh Allen, guys like Jaxson Dart. And so it's a unique playing style. But I think for a rookie quarterback, you come in the league, you want to make something happen. The guys rally around that. And you can see the energy that he's brought.
Yeah, I will give Robert Mays credit from the Athletic Football Show. He said right now, Jaxson Dart and Cam Scatterby, a little too much similar styles of play right now. You want to kind of avoid that if you're a quarterback. I agree. You talk about how you liked him as a college prospect. How do you think so far what you saw on his college tape has transferred over to what he's done so far with the Giants, Brian?
Yeah, the one thing, when you watch like the top guys, the one thing that I would say that Jaxson did the best, and you've seen it a little bit, he was a guy who wanted to move up into the pocket, whereas
Yeah, I
guys
saw that
like
too.
Cam Ward, guys like Shador, I thought Jaxson Dart and Will Howard were the ones who were most pro ready when it came to pocket movement, and you've seen it. And watching that game last Thursday night, he had a lot of great plays, but the one that really stuck out in my mind is like, man, he's playing. That's a professional throw. There was a play, Jahad Campbell, I think, was coming free on a blitz, and he hung in there, stepped up, and hit Theo Johnson on a sail route.
Yep.
And I was like, that's a legit NFL play right there. Like, he's not trying to escape. The thing about playing quarterback in the NFL that's different from the collegiate level, and I was nowhere near as athletic as some of these guys playing now, but if you want to play quarterback, you got to hang in there and take some hits and know my guy's going to be open. Here comes the pressure. And that was probably one of the more impressive throws for Jaxson Dart last Thursday night. And he showed that in the collegiate level. And so to see that translating now, he's getting, a few starts under his belt. That's what you want to see. And I think Daboll's the right guy to have to bring him along. It's okay. Let's have a few design runs. It's okay to scramble, but let's keep developing that pocket presence and hanging in there and hitting the guys when we know they're going to be open.
Yeah, and having that type of spidey sense, right, to understand where the rushers are. There was one play against the Eagles, and I don't remember which edge rusher it was, but he came kind of, he went around the edge, came all the way around, and it looked like he was and a Dart rolled to his right. It looked like he was about to get got from behind and maybe stripped, but somehow Dart senses him, steps up in the pocket, gets back to his left, and avoids it. Brian, is that something that almost can't be taught and something a quarterback has an innate feel for, just understanding their physical presence in the pocket versus where the defenders are?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that you develop over time. And the fact that he was doing it in college, now the speed is picking up, but he has a feeling of the pocket. I think that's the biggest thing with young quarterbacks. You want to feel the pocket and not see it, right? You don't want to put your eyes down. The one thing that you've seen from him is he's keeping his eyes up. And there's a lot of plays where he's moving around and extending the play. And a lot of the positive plays come off of that. But I think the fact that he keeps his eyes up and he's seeing what's around him, and the touchdown to Wan'Dale Robinson, he moves around and he finds him, his eyes are up, throws the ball, he breaks a tackle, it's a touchdown. And I think that's what, look, as he develops, you're going to want to lean on those types of plays, but also you want to see more of the plays I just talked about where he hangs in the pocket. He knows his guy's going to be open, take a shot, complete the pass, keep moving on. Dude, I don't know. He's got to be so sore when he wakes up on Monday mornings or the day after the game, because playing quarterback, you're going to get hit enough as it is. And thankfully, he's a muscular guy. I didn't realize, you watch him out there. I mean, he's juking Zach Bond, but he's also running some of these guys over. Now, you want to limit some of those hits, obviously, as you go on. But I think that's something that is a little bit of a learning process. And I'm sure Dayball's in there saying, like, look, I love it, but we got to make sure you can make it through the season. So don't stop hanging out with Scatterby. I'm sure at some point we'll see Scatterby throw a ball like he did in the college level. Dayball has a bag of tricks that he can go to. But if you're a Giants fan, you got to be so excited about this injection of youth at these positions, and they're winning games. I mean, who would have thought they're beating the defending Super Bowl champs on Thursday night with the whole country there to watch? And so that can do a lot for your locker room, and a lot for your team.
Yeah, no question about it. And it's funny. I knew he was a good college athlete, right? You could see him move around in college.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you, Brian. I did not think his athleticism darts would play as well as it has at the NFL level. I mean,
Yeah.
he's one of three quarterbacks that have more than 50 rushing yards in his first three starts as a quarterback. The other guys are Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, and I would
Yeah.
not put him necessarily in that category coming out of college. But what he's been able to do with his legs has really been impressive. And you know this, it takes a long time for college guys to figure out the art of playing quarterback, right? You know, reading defenses, going through your progressions, all that stuff. But you can hide some of that stuff and still succeed if you bring some of the athletic traits. And his running has it's been a lot more effective than I thought it was to the level that it has been early in his NFL career.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, the touchdown run where he jukes Zach Bond and then he pulls away, and I'm like, okay, who's going to catch him? And he really built speed. And I'm sure maybe with next gen stats what his top speed is, but he kind of does play like a Jalen Hurts type of style of football. And when Jalen gets out, you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden he's taken off, and the
Yeah.
guys can't catch him. He doesn't look like Lamar, he doesn't look like Jaden, but he's running past people, and that's where I think Dayball is content right now with like bringing him along and teaching him how to play quarterback while allowing him to use his athleticism to extend the plays, make the big plays. And I think, that's why I said you look back to a young Josh Allen. I remember a game in Minnesota. He's trying to hurdle guys in the middle of the field and taking shots from linebackers and safeties. And now he's gotten to the point where he's the MVP of our league because he does it when he has to, not because he's always trying to do it. And so I think with Jaxson Dart, each week he'll learn a little bit more. He'll understand coverage. I mean, Dayball is basically running an offensive system that I'm very familiar with, that he brought from New England, has taken to Alabama. It's molded, adapted. And I think the one thing I know about that system is you need a guy who's smart at quarterback, and so he's directing the line where the mic point is, and he'll continue to grow in that too. And by all accounts, and I'm sure you've seen it because we all watched the Gruden quarterback camp. I thought Jaxson Dart was very well prepared when he did that. Now, I know Gruden got on him for the clapping of the cadence, but his cadence sounded pretty good out there on Thursday night. And so he's coming along, and I believe in Dayball. And, Mike Kafka is a guy I've known for a long time, played against each other in the Big Ten, came across each other during our careers. Very smart guy, has a little bit of that Kansas City influence. So you got the right guys in place, and now you've interjected this energy into the team. I mean, I'm seeing Mr. Mara talking about, this is better than any type of treatment I could get for cancer, is beating the Eagles. And so it just goes to show you that can go a long way in an NFL locker room. Guys start to believe. We're seeing it up here in New England with Drake May. I
Yeah.
mean, he's taken 4 years of development in a leap in just 365 days. A lot of that has to do with Josh McDaniels being back, and no one closer with Josh than Brian Daboll. So they have the right philosophies, and now it's just about going out and executing it.
Huddle up, get in here. If you're lined up here, you gotta go over the middle with it to score.
Right. How do we make that happen?
I don't know, but Citizens does.
Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of Eli Manning.
You mentioned the offensive system. How does, and surprisingly, both of you and Dave's had two stints in New England. You missed each other both times by about 1 year. But what is it about that system and how it can work with Jaxson Dart's skills, and how you can lean into some of the things you have in it to help develop a young quarterback? And how do you go about maybe giving him a little bit more every week, and just how you think he's going to grow in that system?
Yeah, I think from what I've seen, Dave's is keeping it pretty simple as far as the route concepts. I don't see a ton of alerts, but I know that's part of it. You see it from time to time. Ultimately, you want to put what's on the guy's plate, what he can handle. And so right now, I think Dayball is like, look, let's keep it simple. We'll run our core concepts. If it's not there, we have a guy who can extend the play and make plays with his legs or by scrambling and throwing the football. And I think each week, the more comfortable he gets, you add a little bit more and you add a little bit more. But the way and look, I played in every offensive system there is. The one way I would describe this offense, that derives from New England is it really gives the power to the players and ultimately to the quarterback to get in and out of good plays, to see what the defense is doing and make those adjustments out on the field. Whereas, other systems, maybe like the West Coast, it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to game plan really well, and you just go out and execute the plan. And if something bad happens, like, they got us. Well, in this system that Dayball and Josh McDaniels, the system that they run, it's like, if you see a bad look, let's not just run a bad play because they got us. Let's see if we can get in and out of it and get to the right play. And I think you'll see that more and more as he becomes comfortable with Dart and knows what he feels comfortable out there executing on the field. But it is, I mean, look, offenses are like family trees and everybody has their own branch. And so I think the cool thing about Dayball and his experience is he goes down to Alabama and coaches in the collegiate level for a little bit. And there's the zone read and the run game and the RPO. And then he takes it to Buffalo and now becomes the head coach in New York. And look, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Danny Dimes looks pretty good over there in Indy. And Dayball's first year, Daniel Jones looked like a really good player. He dealt with some injuries, could really not get back. But I think Dayball knows how to utilize a guy with Jaxson Dart's skill type. The guy can run. You can call some design runs for him. Now, I don't think you want to be doing 10 a game. You want to let him play quarterback. But as of right now, you got to do what you got to do to win the football games. So it's a good mix. And I think the more Jaxson Dart gets comfortable of playing quarterback, you'll see him excel at that role too.
How sustainable, Brian, is kind of this way that Jackson's playing? The way I've kind of called him as a playmaker, where he's not quite playing quarterback yet, but he's just making plays out there. How long can this work, or will we eventually see a diminishing return on this style?
Yeah, I think, first of all, the diminishing return, we've seen a lot of young quarterbacks get hurt this year, right? JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, like, how long is it sustainable? These guys are bigger and faster than anything that they've experienced in their collegiate career. You're going to take some hits. And so one, I would say the health issue would be a sustainable question that you're going to have. And then ultimately teams are going to say, okay, what we have to do with this guy is have a disciplined rush and don't let him get outside the pocket. So you're going to find, and maybe it's the Denver Broncos this week who say, look, we all know we want to get sacks, but if we get it out of our rush lanes, that's the one chance that Dart's going to turn into a playmaker. Let's just rush, keep him in the pocket, and let's see if he can play quarterback. I think that's what good defensive coaches are going to look at the film and say, the only way this guy is going to beat us right now is if we give him the access to get outside the pocket and make some of these scramble plays. And then it'll come down to, all right, Jaxson, how fast can you progress as a drop back quarterback, staying in the pocket and picking apart these defenses when they're not letting you escape the pocket? So, it's hard. You don't want to coach it out of him. And he's got to have a feel. And I'm not going to draw the comparisons to Drake May, but Drake, where he's excelled so much up here in New England is he has a really good feel now of when he knows to stay in the pocket because he has the right matchup to throw the ball. And also he knows when it's time to pull it down. And so I think that's always the struggle for a young quarterback who is capable of getting outside the pocket and making the plays like Jaxson. Okay, take it when it's there, but don't force it.
Giants Huddle Podcast is brought to you by Citizens, the official bank of the Giants. Enter for your chance to watch a Giants road game at MetLife Stadium with a special appearance by Eli Manning, courtesy of Citizens, the official bank of Eli Manning and the Giants. For details to enter, visit awaygamewatchparty.com by November 1st. Brian, you talked about trying to make them read out the defense. I think there was one play last week. I think it was a third down. He looks left. Little Jordan Humphrey's not there in a little stop route. He gets back to his right. He hits Wanda Robinson on time on a crosser. That was kind of the one play where I'm like, all right. He got to one side, got back to the other, on time, made the play. We haven't seen a ton of that, but how have you seen him, Jaxson, in terms of seeing the field? I've seen some plays where there have been some guys open down the field and he hasn't necessarily gotten the ball out to him and has run instead. How have you seen that part of his game develop?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I remember watching that throw to Robinson back on the crosser. And I think the one thing about this offense too, and I'm sure this is how Dayball is treating it, you have progression reads, you have coverage reads, you have man versus zone reads. And so I think with Dayball, the best thing he's doing is probably keeping it in the progression read kind of scheme, because what that tells you is, all right, Jaxson, we're going to go left to right on this. And the first guy who's open, that's who you're throwing the ball to. And if it's not there, okay, then do what you got to do. And I think you see the aspect of him being able to do that. But I think, like I said, there's times where you can tell he gets a little antsy and he's like, all right, let me get outside. Because the one thing that people have to understand as a quarterback, all of us would love to get outside the pocket. There's no one in front of you. You see everything. You don't
Right.
have to read coverage with 10 guys in front of you. So he'll get to the point where it's like, okay, it's a progression read. Number one's not there. Number two's there. Boom, give him the ball. Let's keep moving the sticks. Let's not try to turn every play into an extension and try to make this heroic play. Sometimes you can just play football and take what they give you, try to keep it in manageable situations. But I did see, I remember on Thursday night game coming out of halftime, they interviewed Dayball. He's like, yeah, we want to just stay on track, skip third down. Well, that's a great way to do it for a young quarterback, right? Hit some of these plays, skip
Right.
third down. That way you're not getting into these, third down is the hardest situation in football until you get down in the red area. Because now you got to be able to keep the offense out there. If you can skip third down by getting a first down on first or second down, now you don't have to worry about it. It's kind of behind you. And so I think Dayball's doing a good job of giving those types of reads to him. And now, if you're a Jaxson Dart, you just got to trust it. And when you see the first guy who's open, get it to him and keep moving those chains.
All right, I'm going to get to the matchup with the Broncos in a second, but I really think the run game in Scadaboo has really helped Dart here too.
Yeah.
By the way, so is the return of Andrew Thomas. The Giants' offensive line has played better the last 3 weeks than it has in a couple of years. But they ran the ball over 40 times in Dart's first win. They ran the ball 39 times in Dart's second win. Now, some of those were quarterback scrambles, I know. But when you can run more than you pass for a young quarterback, Brian, how does that help a guy when not everything is on him and you're in either third and reasonable or you're not even getting the third down at all?
Yeah, any quarterback who says he doesn't want to run the ball is lying to you, I promise, because running the football makes it easier on everybody. It makes it easier on the offensive line. It makes it easier on the receivers. It makes it easier on the quarterback because once the defense has to commit to stopping the run, that's when you're going to hit some of these play action passes or even get some single high coverages where you don't have as many people in the back end of the defense. And so I think the one thing that they have going for them, as you mentioned before, Cam Scadaboo brings a toughness factor where if you're a defense and you're coming in to play the Giants, you're like, man, we gotta get in the box to stop this guy. He's going to run some of these people over. The first guy isn't going to be able to bring him down. So when the defense has to commit more defenders to the run game, it makes it simpler when it gets to the passing game. And so having Scadaboo kind of have this coming out party, so to speak, defenses have to honor that. And now that gives you a little bit more one-on-one matchups on the outside. And also it allows you to hit some of these play action passes off of the run. And that really becomes, takes a lot off the quarterback's plate. And let's not forget the team that won the Super Bowl last year ran the ball more than any other team in the NFL. And granted, they had Saquon and Jalen, but you could kind of have your own poor man's version of Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley with Jaxson Dart and Cam Scadaboo, right? Because they're both threats to run the football. Now defenses have to commit. And I know the Giants don't have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the outside, but you have some guys that can make some plays and make it to one-on-one. Look, little Jordan Humphrey, as a guy I played with, he's a big, tall target. And Jackson threw it up to him last week. He boxed the defender out, and he can go get that. So you're going to have those opportunities. I think Theo Johnson will be a guy who really benefits from the run game because knowing this offensive system, you go back to Gronkowski or even now in New England with Hunter Henry, a lot of their production comes off of the play action game. So I'm sure Dayball, especially coming from coaching tight ends in New England, is going to want to be able to use that type of concept for the Giants.
If you want to know how to manage 2 minutes of crunch time football, I'm your man. But if you're wondering about a long-term financial plan, you should talk to Citizens. Hey, I can also talk lawn care.
I'd like to learn about a mowing routine.
Yes, I knew I could help.
Make sense of your money with Citizens.
No question about it. All right, let's get to the matchup here. And we were talking before we started, Brian. This is probably going to be the best, the toughest test that Dart has faced. We thought the Eagles last week could be really tough, but then Jalen Carter doesn't play. Quinion Mitchell goes out early, and they already had issues at cornerback. So it turned out to find your one-on-one matchup and just kind of take advantage of it, which worked. You're not going to be able to do that against the Broncos this week. The other thing about, I think, that's been constant with the teams the Giants have faced, they've been heavy zone teams, right? Yeah. Saints heavy zone team, Chargers heavy zone team, Eagles last week heavy zone team. The Broncos rather play a ton of man, and they have good corners. And you mentioned no Malik Neighbors, the Giants wideouts. You're not rolling out a bunch of guys that can just win one-on-one matchup. So what do you think this matchup looks like for Dart? How does Dable get him and Kafka get him ready for it? And what's the game plan to try to have success against what's probably the best defense in football?
Yeah, it's a tough deal. I mean, look what they did to the Jets in London. I mean, it was, as an offensive player, I hated watching that game because it was a defensive showdown.
A lot of punts, man.
Can we get to the 1 o'clock games? Because this is brutal. But you're right. I mean, look, they have a very formidable pass rush. they can lock you down on the outside. And so to me, the game plan's got to be, you got to try to run the football, make them commit, and maybe use Theo Johnson as your matchup, because outside is not going to be where you want to go, especially in man coverage. Now, the one thing that can always help against man coverage is a quarterback who can run, because they don't always account for him, right?
Right.
If they're out there covering. So I would look to see, early on, is there a spy for Jaxson Dart? Are they playing man coverage? And instead of that extra guy helping in coverage, is he spying Jackson? So when he goes to take off, he goes to get after him. So it's going to be the toughest task by far. The best thing that the Giants can do is establish a running game and not try to make it one dimensional, because if you try to get into a passing matchup with the Broncos, Nick Bonito, Cooper, they're going to be pinning their ears back to rush. And the guys outside are going to lock down your receivers, because Patrick Surtain's, the best corner in football. And like you mentioned, you don't have Neighbors. If you have Neighbors, at least it equalizes a little bit. Now, I think the game plan has to be, let's stay ahead of down and distance. Let's run the football, and let's see if we can get some explosive plays in the pass game off of the play action pass.
Now, you kind of mentioned this earlier, how teams might just start trying to crush the pocket, right?
Yeah.
Well, the Broncos' two outside rushes, they're speed guys, right? They want to win outside with Cooper and Benito. Yeah. They're undersized. Does Dart's ability to run take something away from that outside pass rush a little bit, because you don't want to get too far outside the pocket and create those running lanes?
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you have like these elite pass rushers who want to get sacks. How do you coach them to say, look, that's great, but if you run by him, now he gets out, you're making it easier on him. And I remember, all those years in New England, we'd sit in those team meetings and we'd be playing an elusive quarterback, and Bill Belichick would get up there and say, look, I know you guys want to get sacks, but this week we have to play team defense. You have to stay in your rush lanes, because if you go up the field and the quarterback squirts out to the right and we don't have anyone there, it's the only way he's going to be able to beat us, right? So I think if you're the Giants, you're hoping for these guys to just scream up the field and give Dart some of these lanes to go out and make a play with his legs. If you're the Denver Broncos, you got to be preaching all week. We have to keep this guy in the pocket and make him play quarterback and complete passes against man coverage. It's going to be very difficult for him. So see if they can be disciplined and do that.
It's funny. You mentioned the spy. That play that you were talking about last week, Zach Baun was spying Jaxson Dart on that play. That was his responsibility. And Dart shook him anyway. Will teams have to start spying him with a safety? Like, do you have to change the type of spy you're using if Dart shows his mobility maybe is too much for linebackers?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things. You've seen it with a lot of guys. Jaden Daniels gets that treatment a lot. And the one thing is, when they start to scramble and that spy comes out of, coverage, basically, like where he's waiting for him to commit, now you do open up some of the lanes behind him. So, look, I wouldn't want to be a spy having to treat some of these athletic quarterbacks, because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, once he commits to the line of scrimmage, you got to go tackle him. But if he's still behind the line of scrimmage and can throw it to now the spot that you vacated, that becomes a dilemma, which is why I think, this is the type of quarterback the NFL is trending to get to, is a guy like Jaxson Dart, a guy like Josh Allen, Drake May, Justin Herbert, Mahomes, because it puts the defense in such a bind.
All right, let's flip it. Bo Nix has had a slower start to his second year than he had to his first. Still a lot of short passes. They get the ball out quick. They move the pocket a lot with him. The Giants, similar deal, right? They have speed rushers. They want to get up the field and rush the passer. What do you think about Nix and how Sean Payton wants to run that offense versus how the Giants are trying to get to the quarterback and Shane Bowen's defense?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the Denver Broncos pass rush. I mean, is there a better pass rush after them than the New York Giants? These guys get after the quarterback and do a tremendous job, but they have to be disciplined as well, because Bo Nix, very similar. He may not run the ball like Jaxson Dart with the power, but he has the ability to use his legs, and he's going to keep his eyes up and try to throw the ball first, and then he can run. So you have to be disciplined in that pass rush. I love the additions that the Giants made in the offseason with Debo and Javon Holland. I mean, two guys that I always respected when I played against them. And so you're seeing the defense come along. It's going to be a challenge because they have some big receivers outside. The tight ends like to be involved. I mean, it's a Sean Payton offense. You know what you're going to get. He's going to have those first 15 scripted, and they're going to be a screen, an outside zone run, an inside zone run. I mean, he's going to keep you guessing. So you have to stay disciplined, and you have to try to make Bo Nix beat you with his arm. Don't let him get outside the pocket. So a very similar game plan, I would say, if you're the New York Giants defense, of what the Broncos defense is going to try to do to Jaxson Dart.
All right, final question. You mentioned you know what you're getting with the Sean Payton offense. How does the Sean Payton offense try to attack? Are they trying to stretch horizontally, vertically? I know he tries to do a lot of different things. The screen game's great.
Yeah.
If you're defense, you're getting ready for Sean Payton. What are some of the telltale signs that Giant fans should get ready for that a Sean Payton offense is going to show the Giants defense?
Yeah, in a very similar fashion to like the Patriots system, I would say Sean Payton's system is very similar. You're going to see a lot of kill plays. Like we can all see Drew Brees, and if we close our eyes, kill. He's trying to get to the perfect play, right? And he's trying to keep you on edge, and he's trying to make you defend everything. And so you're going to see a lot of those plays where it's an outside zone to the left, and they come back with a half roll, and it's a boot play, and then they go back to a screen, and now it's a run, it's a draw. He's going to try to make you defend every blade of grass. And the best way, at least I can remember, when we would go against those offenses, I could hear Bill in my mind, look, you just have to be disciplined. Don't fool for the fakes. Just read your keys and respond. And I think the biggest thing, like I said before, is that pass rush. Just stay disciplined. Don't try to get out of your gap because you think you have a sack. Now, all of a sudden, it gives Bo Nix the ability to get outside the pocket and see what's down the field, as opposed to crushing the pocket, making them, let's see if he can pick you apart and get down the field, as opposed to maybe a big explosive play when he gets outside of the pocket.
You can find Brian Hoyer on SiriusXM. Brian, what else do you have going on? Where can the folks find you? What are you up to in your post-playing career?
Yeah, got a podcast up here in New England. Not that many Giants fans are going to want to tune into that, but I do it with David Andrews. He's a former center of the Patriots, and we've known each other for a long time. Also do a few things around the New England Patriots with their local media. But SiriusXM is the one area you can find me covering all things NFL, the opening drive with Solomon Wilcots on Thursday morning, 7 to 10.
Hey, Giants get the Patriots later in the year. Maybe we can get together and do a little preview before that game, Brian. That'll be fun.
Both teams are hot right now. I would love to do it, and maybe we're both vying for playoff spots when it comes to that point of the season. So looking forward to it.
Brian, good stuff. Appreciate the time, my friend.
All right, take care.
Brian Hoyer and the Giants Huddle Podcast brought to you by Citizens Official Bank of the Giants. We'll see you next time, everybody.